All right, Nick, here we are Monday afternoon. You're in your garage. You got the Dietrich Bonhoeffer mug. Are you drinking coffee at this time of day, my friend?
Coffee. Drinking coffee and resisting.
Ooh, oh, yeah.
Yeah, me and Bonhoeffer, two peas in a pod. That's what people say.
Is that mug supposed to get you not to drink coffee or to resist people who tell you not to drink coffee?
I think it helps me resist Nazism.
Okay. Coffee or no coffee?
Just don't be a Nazi.
All right. Okay. I get it.
Yeah, I think that's what Bonhoeffer would say.
All right. I like it. Well, I've noticed something, and that is that, and I think same is true for myself, but I've been noticing it in our community, our church, I think. And then I've heard about it from some other leaders recently. And one was in the church, one was outside the church. So it's that people are starting to already feel like they're needing to kind of disengage from the, I guess, emphasis they were putting on coronavirus or helping one another or tuning into all the videos or what do we do? You know, it seems like everybody's kind of getting burned out to some degree. Even on the news today, they were talking about how people are starting to tune out the news on coronavirus.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And another pastor, I mentioned this in our Zoom church gathering, but another pastor mentioned that he felt that his engagement level went down around or after Easter, that people kind of went, okay, I don't know. Have you noticed that? Are you feeling any of that yourself?
I'm going to be honest with the coronavirus news. I was kind of disengaged. Once everything hit and they're like, this is an issue, I thought, okay, well, I'll gather this information, but I have not been actively seeking out more information for sure. Just I would say until when the church kind of had to close and our salon had to close, and
right.
then I just said, okay, I'm not going to soak in this news anymore because, you become what you take in. And so if you're taking in bad news all the time, you're going to be fearful living in that realm. But what I would say is we have developed new rhythms as a family, and obviously Rochelle's with us as well. So as like a unit, there's a new norm. And I think once that happens, once you establish new rhythms, then you don't feel the need for extra engagement.
Yeah.
So I think you mentioned that like our viewership has gone down on all the videos we've been posting. And I think it's because people are feeling more comfortable, though maybe still worried, but they at least have a new life pattern.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I was, first of all, yeah, I made it a little further into the news. I think I stuck with it another week and a half longer than what you're describing. But at this point, I do swipe to the left side of my phone about once a day to just see if there's some headline. And I see them all, and it tends to feel all like the same stuff. And I haven't really read many of those articles lately because it's like I don't know, you know, it's not necessarily a good thing that I don't, because I want to care about every death and every issue, but it just feels like there's so much of it that, you know, and then I don't know about you, but I get fed more left media. But if I scroll down a little ways, the Fox News stuff pops up, and I realize that the way that the algorithms work is that if you're right leaning, you get all of those news articles, and then so I just realized we're all reading different news anyway.
Yeah.
You know, like the angle on it is just so different if you look at it from one side or the other. So I'm like, man, how helpful is this?
That's so I get both. Well, the problem I have is I have people that I love and respect on both of those realms.
Yep, same.
Getting all those voices, and quite frankly, I don't know everything.
Yeah.
And so what I found was, you know, I would listen to one side and then I'd lean that way. I'd listen to the other and I'd lean back. And the large part of me just kind of disengaging a little bit was just to help me like love the people in my life well. And so say, how can I submit and love my fellow humans, believers and non-believers, and just walk forward calmly and saturate myself in the gospel. And so yeah, I'll check. I have like the Tucson News app, and I'll check that every once in a while, like every other day. But it's real depressing. So I'd rather not.
I'll tell you what, too. It's probably even evidenced in the sound in my video right now. For the first couple weeks, because we live really close to Craycroft, larger street that runs north-south here in Tucson.
Mm-hmm.
First couple days, the sound level of vehicles on Craycroft was like way down. Now, kind of is like normal. Mm-hmm. I feel like people are starting to go like, okay, I'm going to drive to the office. I'm not going to just stay in my house. Now that I think there's probably a decent amount of social distancing, but people are like, I don't have to be like cowering in my room.
Right.
I can get in the car, I can go down the street, I can, walk into my office and do some. I feel like there's a lot. It's not back to the way it was, but it already feels like busier out there, I've noticed.
Yeah.
So the, on the flips, I would say, maybe not on the flip side, maybe that's the wrong way of saying it. There's a side of me that thinks, yeah, it's good we're not all freaking out and watching the news and getting obsessed with all the details. I assume some of us still are, by the way. I don't think that's everybody, but as a whole,
right.
Maybe that's fine. Maybe it's probably okay that we're not cowering, that we're willing to get in the car and go down the street for an errand or two, a little more than we were a couple weeks ago.
For sure, yeah.
But on the other side of this, I wonder if there's a downside to us kind of disengaging and just adjusting to the new normal. And you were just talking about loving those around us, and because I also feel like, and there are a lot of ways that we just kind of brainstormed how we could help people out. We're about to share one of those in the next day or two. And there's a little fear of mine, I think I have, that we're out of that. We're already not thinking about how to help each other out either, because we're just kind of slipping into the new.
Yeah. And the danger of like the isolation is that we are built for community, like that. This is how God designed us, but we also have a tendency to be inward focused.
Right.
I think there is a danger in saying, okay, we've got our new rhythm, we're going to be by ourselves, and we're not going to connect with those outside anymore. And that really hinders a lot of spiritual growth. And if you're not connecting with others, it's really hard to love them well. Sorry, UPS guy just drove by. He was hauling too, like going real fast. He was not loving his neighbor on my street very well. So yeah, I think it's easy to forget that others exist and that there's others who have needs. And if we're not connecting, we can't hear those needs. You can't hear the desires and hearts of people around you. And I wonder if that's not a quick slope down to just selfishness and inward turning. I mean, I'm sure there's steps in the middle of that, but that would be my fear is we don't connect. We just now, like, what do you do? What do you do when you're not loving your neighbor? Probably slipping into some not great patterns.
Yeah, it's really easy, I guess, during this time because you're supposed to stay home. So you stay home unless you're doing anything essential, and that usually means essential to yourself, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so you're like, I'm following the rules by really not engaging and being out and doing this kind of stuff. And then I would assume it's very easy to forget about anybody who's struggling, who doesn't really hit your radar that easily. We've even talked about like calling people and stuff like that. I've noticed for myself, probably the last 4 or 5 days, especially, just not feeling that same urgency to like check in with somebody, or it's just something's worn off about it. And I don't think that's good. The other thing I was thinking about was that I think the effects of coronavirus, by and large, I think people were afraid in the first few weeks, but the actual impact, the economic impact, the, whatever for people who've had a certain form of grief, or people who fell into an addiction, or people who fell into an anxiety pattern that they'd been out of for a while. I feel like for a lot of those folks, the first few weeks were kind of intense, but there was a lot to keep your mind occupied. The effects of that stuff is going to hit now and moving forward. I'm even thinking about in both of our businesses, like PPP loan stuff hasn't happened, right? Like,
right. Yeah.
We thought it would, we thought it could. We were kind of like, yeah, and I think a lot of people were like, yeah, something's going to happen. And now a lot of us are adjusting and going, uh-oh, maybe not. And so a lot of those people that got laid off and filed for unemployment, but still felt pretty positive, the impact of this could just be around the corner. Right. And so if all the care and the concern and the support local and all that jazz sort of like wears off starting now, that's not good. It's almost, we said this after one of the hurricanes, I think, didn't we? We called an organization and they said, everybody wants to come and serve right after the hurricane hits. But when you really hit, it's like a year or two later.
Yeah. That was with Hurricane Harvey. We were working with a church out in Dallas. And we went a year afterward. And there was no volunteers at all. And there were still people who were homeless, essentially. Their homes were needed to be renovated completely before they could get in there. And actually, I think that's a huge thing. At least for the business owners that I talked to, I don't know a single business owner who got the loan.
I know like one.
Yeah, that's not great. And it also means that we're all going to be really struggling until everything can reopen. And so I know, well, I would say almost 100% certain people's savings accounts are going to be wrecked if they own a business, if they can survive it, especially if they've guaranteed their employees that they're going to continue paying them through this time. And at least I know for us, we're not even eligible because we own our own businesses to go onto unemployment. So that's a problem that we're running into with a lot of our renters. There's nobody eligible for unemployment.
Right.
So I think the time to press in now, is now even more than it was in the beginning.
And probably will be in a month and in 2 months and in 3 months. And if we all just kind of slide into like, okay, cool, none of us got coronavirus, all right. I'm just thinking of the people in our church who are still employed and so on. And you kind of just go, all right, back to normal, back to life. We could really be missing what God has put in front of us as like a deep, meaningful need. Because I assume as a society, that'll be the swing, especially if things start to like open back up. Okay, some of the businesses will come back and hopefully make it and whatever. So maybe that's good. But then, people will, if things reopen, undoubtedly there'll be some other wave of coronavirus. So some people get sick and there will be loss and grief. That'll probably happen. Number two, there's still going to actually be a ton of people that don't get back to work very quickly. And so the ones that were already on the edge, financially or emotionally or whatever, like you could see this uptick in things like homelessness and alcoholism. And I don't, not a future predictor, but it seems very reasonable that could happen. And then, just people who are prone to things like depression, if they're, savings account, say they're fine, but their savings account's depleted and it brings a lot of anxiety. It's just, issues are going to be there. And if we just kind of like get back to life and forget about it, that's not good. And I feel that tension in myself. That's what I want to do, is I want to just get back. I want to find either my new rhythm or get back to normal, one of the two. I don't want to stay in this like chaotic state, but I wonder if some of that chaos was moving us to action. And as we lose it, that's a bad thing. As far as us loving one another, helping one another, checking in on one another goes.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me of like the created order, right? In Genesis 1 and 2, where the world is in chaos right now. I mean, still as Though we may feel like there's a rhythm that we've walked into personally, there's still people who are just, I just talked to a guy 2 days ago. We delivered some essential items to this family, and it was a husband and wife, and they had 4 kids. Both of them were in the chef industry, so they both got laid off, and they had nothing. When I delivered the stuff, the husband said, "Hey, well, I just got a second interview and just got hired at Dollar General, so we're going to have a little bit of an income." So that's really good. He was really excited about it. But in the middle of this chaos, I was able to step in and provide some order. Like, here's some essential things that you need. Here's some toilet paper and stuff. And I think, man, that's our role right now. Like, if we want to be like Jesus, let's bring some order to the individuals who still live in chaos.
Yeah. Well, I think, anyway, I guess my encouragement to our church and whoever else might tune in is like, just fight against the tendency to just slip back into an old rut or a new rut, and stay tuned in to the needs of others. If you're not experiencing any of this and you just listened to this and thought that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, sorry, just, these are just ideas, thoughts.
Great
And yeah, really do, like, especially it's a weird time because, yeah, the smaller the small business, the more rough this is, because it seems like a lot of them aren't getting the bailouts they expected. Nick and I are both, we feel that ourselves because we're in that boat. Right. And so there's that, and all the employees that affects, which are usually like lower wage earners or independent contractors, stuff like that. And so those people in your life, pay attention, and continue to find ways to hire them on the side, help them out, get them essential items. And there are many other classes of need. So yeah, those people, if you know people who are prone to times of darkness, depression, anxiety, do call them. Is it going to be difficult for you because you're home with kids? Yes. Is this the time that Jesus might really be, asking us to walk with him in that? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And I would even say, so we still haven't gotten our stipend, Hannah and I,
right?
Which we're looking forward to that, because we're going to probably have to use that to pay our people. But I was thinking, man, there are a lot of people who are still they're fully employed. They can work from home. So maybe instead of using that stipend to purchase something that you've wanted, like, now's the time to help somebody out. And, I mean, there are people, I would think, in our church who are just financially devastated right now. And so that's a good way for you to say, hey, I'm going to, instead of focusing on self again, I'm going to take this gift I've been given, and I'm going to pay it forward to somebody who needs it.
And we're having the discussion, it's not a done deal yet, but we're having the discussion about having a fund at the church that our deacons help distribute that would be set aside specifically for the effects of coronavirus on people, that if anyone had stimulus money or just whatever, that you wanted to pitch a little bit into that fund, we could help. Because a lot of times it's not as simple as just cash. Sometimes it's hiring somebody on the side, or sometimes it's it's better to buy items than to give cash, especially to some of our more vulnerable populations. So look out for that. That's in discussion, and if that gets set up, we'll share it with all of you. And by the way, sorry about some of your emails not coming through. The more I'm looking into that, I'm seeing that all of you who are not getting the emails are on the list. And a couple of you have gotten back and said, actually, they were getting stuck in spam or promotion folders. And I think I would guess it's because we've sent about triple the amount of emails we normally do, and your filters are rejecting us.
Reject us.
So, but also, if you're not getting them, please do send over, probably email one of us, Andy or Nick at missionchurchtucson.com. Your email, and we'll check and make sure it is indeed on the list. So,
yeah. Also, can I just put in there, like, an official church vote that John should write his children's book?
Yeah.
Turn that sword into a shovel.
Yeah. Man, the garage sword. I like it.
Yeah.
And I thought he was going to do some kind of what was that rapping children's book? There was
Yeah, there was a desert animal rap children's book, which
yeah.
still I would love that. I've got an illustrator lined up. We're ready to go.
I think that our 2 votes pretty much mean the whole church voted yes. So
yeah, I feel like everybody's voting yes.
John, have to. You have no choice as a servant of Jesus Christ.
Jesus.
So, write your books, man. All right. Let's head out. Thanks for listening, everybody. Nick, good to see you in your garage.
My garage. Love it.
All right.